Good morning, students. And today we are going to discuss about the chapter land, soil, and water resource. The second chapter in class 8 geography. In the first part, we will be discussing about the land resources of chapter 2. So when you speak about the land resource, you all know that land is a natural resource because we have discussed earlier in the first chapter that the land, soil, and water are the natural resources. And this land is a natural resource, and in Earth, one-fourth of the land is covered with land. Almost 29 percentage of the Earth is covered with land, and 71 percentage is covered with water. The reason why we are studying about this chapter, the land as a resource, it means because this is the place in the Earth where we inhabit, where we live. So, in that sense, nearly 90 percentage of the world population lives in just only 30 percentage of the land area, while the rest of the land is sparsely populated. Uh, it is unsuitable for human settlement. The reason why, why do you want to study the land as a resource? What is the need to study the land as a resource? Because the land is the only place on the earth where we live. And it is the natural resource which supports the life of the human being, and not only the life of the human being, it supports the life of the entire flora and fauna, the animals, the wildlife, and the forest. So we are in need to preserve and conserve this land as a resource. So among the 29 percentage of the land which is covered in this earth, you imagine just only 30 percentage of that land supports 90 percentage of the world population. What about the rest of the places? However, the large part of the land is covered by deserts, mountain forest, and covered with ice, making them unsuitable for the human settlement. There are places in the earth plains which supports the high population. There it is most densely populated in the plain regions along the course of the river. But there are many places in the earth there which supports only sparse population. Why? Why there is an uneven distribution of a population in different places? It is because of the difference of land and climate in different parts of the world. The unequal distribution of a population in different parts of the world is due to difference in characteristics of land and climate in different parts of the world. The regions, the land system in different places, and the climatic system, the physiographical setting in different places is not suitable for that particular settlement of human settlement. Let's take an example of a plains. Plains is a region where we have a very good alluvial soil, and it is suitable for cultivation, and it is also suitable for the settlement of the human life. But when you come across the plateaus, as you all know, the plateau is a flat table land. It is the storehouse of the minerals. The settlement of human population is cannot be there. So therefore, we cannot find a high amount of densely populated, expensively dense populated peoples around these plateau regions because of the landscape, that physiographical setting of an earth. And when you come across the mountain is suitable for the forest. So I can say that mountains are home to flora and fauna, the wildlife and natural vegetation. So therefore, what I could say is that this land system, this land supports the economic activity of the people. It determines the economic activity of the people. It determines the lifestyle of the people. It determines the infrastructure of the building which has to be built at that particular places. You can't go and build high 3 or 4 story buildings along the coast of the river because it will be flooded. So it supports the economic activities of the people and determines the lifestyle of the people, this land. So nowadays, you see, this usage of land is not according to the judicious manner of the people. Because of the high growth of human population and because of the increase in urbanization and industrialization, this has led to a significant change in the land use pattern. However, the extent to which the land is used for these purposes, as I told you earlier, depends upon the various factors. The land that we use, it depends upon the climate, it depends upon the The soil, it depends upon the topography and the proximity of water in such a way that how we use that particular land. But as I told you earlier, but there is a steady, significant change in the land use pattern because it has to satisfy the growing needs of the increasing population. That is why now there is a major change in the land use. But on the basis of the land use, the land can be classified into different types. You see the arable land, pasture land, fallow land, cultivable wasteland, forest and non-agricultural land. And these have been classified on the basis of the use of the land. What do I mean by arable land? Those lands are suitable for cultivation. Arable lands are land which are suitable for cultivation. And the pasture land are suitable for grazing livestock. And such kind of places will be more suitable for pasture land, where the livestock can be grazed because of the topography of the soil. Because of the proximity of the water and the proximity of the soil, it can be used only for grazing livestock. And what about the fallow land? And fallow land are those land which have been left unused for many seasons. I've been for 3 to 4 months, and then it will be cultivated later only after regaining the fertility of the soil. And cultivable wasteland, those lands are such a land which have been left fallow for more than 5 years, and they will be cultivated later. They can be cultivated. It will be left fallow and for many seasons to regain the fertility of the soil and to get to the enrichment. Then some of the types of forest and non-agricultural, you would have come across all those words: the arable, pasture, the fallow land, cultivable wasteland. These are the land use pattern that we use all across the world. But now you see, with the increase of urbanization and the growth of population, steady significant growth of population, this land use pattern has changed to a tremendous, has been changed in a tremendous manner. To satisfy, to satisfy the human needs, with ever increasing population and growing industrialization and urbanization, there are a decrease, the forest level has been decreased. And the fertile lands are being used to construct buildings and are used for commercial purposes. And the farmland is overused in order to produce more crops. So such kind of activities can lead to the land degradation. The industrialization and the urbanization has decreased the size of the forest, and the farmland is being overused. So when the farmland is being overused, it can lead to a land degradation, soil erosion, the landslide, and desertification. So we are in need at this scenario, at this century, that the land as a resource has to be protected, has to be conserved. With the increase in population, there are more land that has to be brought under cultivation, but instead of bringing into cultivation, these lands are being cleared in order to construct buildings for residential and commercial purposes and for the transportation. So when the farmland is being overused and exploited again and again, it leads to many disintegration. I mean a degradation. So now in this scenario, in this century, we are in need to conserve the forest. So how can we conserve the forest? The overexploitation can lead to the landslide. The overexploitation can lead to the soil erosion and desertification, which can result in the degradation of the soil. So what are the measures in which the land has to be conserved? The first thing that is that what we should check the unplanned cutting of trees. The forest clearing has to be checked. We should check the forest clearing and checks on overgrazing by cattle, because this overgrazing can lead to the removal of the top layer of the soil, and which can lead to the degradation of the land. And afforestation should be encouraged. What is afforestation? A planting of trees. The planting of trees has to be encouraged, and there must be a well planned development activity for roadways and railways. There must be proper disposal of industrial waste, and the human activities must be in such a condition that they do not cause any degradation to the land as a resource. To prevent the depletion of land resources and maintaining the ecological balance, Land must be conserved by land reclamation and afforestation. And we must always have a check in excessive use of fertilizers or pesticides and other activities like mining, because this regulating excessive checks can decrease the land degradation. So in this scenario, my dear students, we are in such a very important case that we should protect our land, because it is the only place which can inhabit the entire life of the plants, animals, and everything. And if it is being degraded, and think of the inhabitation of the peoples. Thank you, students.